and welcome to Business Connections, a show that's produced by the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Holly Allen, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. Today we're talking about education. Before we get started, I want to give you a little insight into the business community in our region. Every year the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce surveys its members, 2,500 members. We ask them about business issues in our community. And this year, I can't say that we were surprised by the number one answer as far as what issues concern our business leaders. 52% of our respondents named the availability of skilled workers as an issue that's deemed critical to address in the next 6 months. We weren't surprised by that. The Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce has long recognized the need for skilled workers in order to ensure a successful business climate in our region. And in order to attack that problem, we've been involved with several partners in the area. One of those partners being Learn to Earn Dayton. And so we're very fortunate to have with us today Tom Lasley from Learn to Earn Dayton. Thank you for being with us. We're also joined by Frank DePalma. He's with the Montgomery County Educational Service Center. So thank you for being with us today. I talked a little bit about why this issue is so important to businesses in our region. And when we talk about workforce, a lot of times business people get stuck on secondary education and beyond that. But Tom, my understanding is when you started looking at how to tackle education in the Dayton region, you realized that you needed to start earlier and earlier in the educational process. Can you tell me about that, how that came to be?
Well, lots of people are concerned with educational attainment, and it's very important for our community to have an educated population, people with degrees and credentials that are going to allow them to earn a living wage job when they're adults. One of the things we found was a lot of success in jobs is dependent not just on your academic abilities, or not just on a skill set that you acquired through a credential program or a degree program, but a lot of soft skills. Some people call these executive function skills. And guess what? Those are learned throughout your K-12 experience, but they're also learned prior to the time that you come to school. So people who are thinking just about, well, let's start worrying about our educated workforce when they're in high school or in those post-secondary years, are waiting too late in the process. We need to be thinking very systemically. We need to be thinking about young people as they get ready to go into our K-12 system. What kinds of skills, cooperation, your ability to share, your ability to really negotiate relationships. Those are all things that are extraordinarily important for a young person who's going to be successful in school. But guess what? They're very important for people in the workplace as well. And so one of the things we've begun to do is to really share with the community the importance of thinking about the kindergarten readiness of our young people, because that helps shape whether they're going to be able to be successful as students, which helps then determine whether they're going to be successful as workers. So the whole process of creating this educated workforce is one that you have to think about holistically. It cannot just be dealt with by looking at one part of the system.
Frank, can I get your take on that? What do you think about starting education and starting our workforce, the end goal there, earlier on in the education years?
Well, Ohio now requires that we begin that in the middle school years, and even that may be too late. But I'd like your audience to think a little bit about when they were in high school as 16, 17, and 18 years old. And were they really ready at that particular point to decide what they might want to do with their careers or what their life work might be? And so I think this is particularly tough for our current high schoolers, because the cost of college now being so expensive, it's very difficult to go for a year or two to college and say, I'm going to find my way once I get to college. And so that whole process is being accelerated, and we have to do a better job and are doing different things in all of our schools at earlier grade levels to have students start to think about careers, what I want to do, and then the training I'm going to need for that career.
Tom, you mentioned even before school begins, kind of a loaded question, but what's the solution that you've come up with to make sure that our students are ready even for kindergarten?
Well, right now, approximately 1 out of 3 of our young people is fully ready for kindergarten. So
Wow.
we're trying to identify ways in which we can increase that percentage. Because as we increase that percentage, we're going to see that our reading, third grade reading proficiency scores are going to be enhanced, not just to have proficient readers, but to have young people reading at a level beyond the proficient stage. So we really want our young people to be successful, and to do that, we have to be a community that intervenes early as opposed to a community that intervenes late. Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times about a year ago had a wonderful piece about why the high-performing countries do so well, especially in comparison to the United States. And he said one of the things they figured out is that you intervene early. You provide lots of educational opportunities for your youngest children so that when they get ready to go into school and they start those early grades, they really have the skills necessary for success. So we're an intervention early community, or we want to aspire to be an intervention early community. And by that, I mean having lots of high quality preschool programs around the county so that all of our students, not just those of the affluent, not just those of the privileged, but all of our young people, because eventually we need all of them in the workforce. Mm-hmm. All of our young people have experiences in high quality preschool. And we're very blessed in Montgomery County to have county commissioners, to have a mayor in the city of Dayton who are trying to find ways to make this possible. It's a complicated problem, but I'm quite convinced that Montgomery County is going to be a leader nationally in terms of providing high quality preschool, because that is absolutely essential to increasing the percentage of our young people who are kindergarten ready. We know that. We've been able to establish that fact. The higher the quality of the preschool program, the more likely young people are to have the skills and abilities necessary to be fully kindergarten ready.
But if you're attempting to reach that child before they even get into school, you're going to need some parental engagement, quite a bit of parental engagement, for them to make sure that their children are getting into those high quality preschools and that they are learning at home as well as at school. So what is Learn to Earn Dayton doing to engage parents in this effort?
Well, we do have, we have one of our staff members who systematically is trying to engage parents. One of the things that parents, one of the things the viewers of this program can do is really focus on the quality of the preschools that serve either their children or their grandchildren, or even the children who are in the community within which they live. Mm-hmm. Having people really be focused on trying to make certain that our young people are attending and having the opportunity to attend a high quality preschools. The state of Ohio came up with the quality assurance system. It's now going to be 1 through 5 stars. We're hoping to increase significantly the number of 3, 4, and 5-star rated programs. Very easy for parents to check and find out the quality of the school, the star rated quality of that school. Mm-hmm. I don't know if many of the viewers will have seen in about the last 2 to 3 weeks that the Dayton was able to get many of its preschools 5-star rated, which is the highest quality rating, and that's an incredible first step. And again, I think it's because we have political leaders and educational leaders who understand the importance of having these kinds of schools in place if we're really going to be successful as a community.
Absolutely right. And Frank, the Montgomery County Educational Service Center bridges that communication. You support the districts, parents, educators, and so on. So you don't necessarily represent the districts, but you're familiar with what they face, correct? Can you tell us about the problem of kindergarten readiness and what our school districts have seen in the Dayton region?
Well, in Montgomery County, we have 16 traditional public school districts. And we have certain districts with a high level of poverty whose children really, as 3- and 4-year-olds, have not been able to attend any type of quality preschool. I want to separate that out from just babysitting. Mm-hmm. And so what we see across the districts are students coming in with knowing the alphabet, letter recognition, numerals, etc., to children who don't know shapes, who don't know colors, who haven't been read to very much. So the gap that we're talking about is very wide, and it really puts the importance on us finding ways, particularly in poverty areas, to get students into quality preschools. The thing that we worry about is many in the general public, and particularly the business community, say, okay, you have the third grade reading guarantee, so you can go in and fix this. But it's sort of like an assembly line approach. You can't go in third grade and just fix it. You can do some improvement. But the children that start off behind really are going to need help all of the way through. And so that's the thing that many people don't see. They think we can go in and fix it at a particular point in the process. And for many of these children, if they start off that far behind, they stay behind the other kids. And so it's an expensive process to get them when they're 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade to help them. That's why it's so critical to start earlier with them.
And you mentioned the difference between babysitting and a high-quality preschool, and I assume there's a cost difference there. And you mentioned the poverty-stricken families have a hard time affording those high-quality preschools. Are there options out there? I don't know who's best to answer this question.
Well, that's one of the things we are trying to solve right now is the affordability issue, and to make it possible for all of our 4-year-olds across Montgomery County to be able to move into and experience educationally a high-quality preschool program. And again, we don't have all of the mechanisms in place, but I can tell you that I think we have the political will in this community. We have the leadership through our county commissioners and through our mayor. We know we have capacity. But we have to continually upgrade and significantly upgrade the quality of the preschools that we have in place right now. We do have a number of 5-star rated programs, and we hope to increase that number. We want to have as many 3, 4, and 5-star rated programs as we can in Montgomery County. And in fact, the way we're looking at making this possible is that there's incentives to parents who actually move their children into and through a higher star rated program. Okay. So part of what we're working on right now are all the mechanisms to make this possible, but I can tell you this is not a dream for the distant future. This is something that we believe we can make happen in a very short period of time, especially given all the different efforts in place and the real, as I said, political will to try to make this happen, because we understand that if we can't solve this, down the road, we are not going to have the workforce we want. It's all very much connected. Anyone who has had children and grandchildren understands how quickly they grow up. Well, guess what? We cannot presume that these young people that we have right now cannot be attended to because of workforce issues. We have to attend to them right now. And I'm assuring the viewers that the mechanisms are in place to try to make this happen in Montgomery County. What they have to do is to keep pushing to make it a reality, and also, if they have young children, pushing to have their children in the highest star rated program that they possibly can manage to navigate, either because of proximity or just the other kinds of decisions that a parent makes in deciding where to matriculate their child.
Absolutely. As a mother of a 4-year-old, I can say that it is not a cheap undertaking. Preschool is much more expensive, I think, than people realize. It's almost like sending your child to a private college. So it's definitely an expensive undertaking. Frank, can you tell me how Montgomery County compares to other similar jurisdictions as far as kindergarten readiness? Are there numbers that can help us gauge that?
Well, Tom's been a leader in us doing this countywide, so I don't know without a lot of work other counties can pull together the type of statistics that we have. And I want to give credit to our 16 superintendents who are not defensive, who are have obviously districts with different economic, social, and the ability of parents to pay or not pay. But they're all working together because this is such a critical issue for us to get some traction on. And so, Tom, I don't know that there's any other county in Ohio that can really point to countywide statistics.
I don't think there is another county in the state that has had the kind of collaboration that you see in Montgomery County. And as Frank indicated, it's because we have 16 school superintendents who are willing to work together and really think about this. One of the statistics I give that I think is a bit curious is that currently about 1 out of 3, 36%, 37% of our young people who graduate from a Montgomery County high school go on to get some sort of 2 or 4-year college degree. This is far below what it needs to be, but that's where we stand right now. That's why we're trying to increase the number. So 1 out of 3. And guess what the percentage is for the percentage of young people who are fully kindergarten ready in Montgomery County? It's 1 out of 3. So we have almost a matched percentage between those who are fully kindergarten ready and those who are finishing their education with a 2 or 4-year degree. Now, anyone watching the program who has a good background in statistics is going to readily say, well, but those are 2 different groups of children, and I would admit that. But my point is, it's kind of a curious fact that we're graduating from college the same percentage of young people who walk into our system fully kindergarten ready. And I think it's also telling. I think as you begin to see that we increase the percentage of our young people who are kindergarten ready, you're going to see that the degree and credentialing rates of our graduates will go up because they're going to be skilled in a way that's going to allow them to pursue some sort of post-secondary credential.
Okay. And real quick before we change gears here, Tom, where can parents go if they're looking for guidance on what constitutes a high-quality preschool?
Well, probably the simplest thing for them to do, they should look at the 5tothrive.org website. They can also go to learntoearndayton.org. And either one of those will be able to get them moving in the right direction. And there are also lots of other contact pieces of information on both of those sites, and they can access those points of contact if they need to.
And I think it's important because some parents don't know where to go, that we do a better job of advertising the preschools that are available, the early childhood centers, and what their star rating is. But what we know is, particularly in poverty areas, transportation and cost are big factors. And so it puts the pressure on us to make sure that we have star-rated programs throughout the county to make it convenient. And I don't mean convenient as much as accessible to parents who just don't have the ability to drive 10 miles out of their way in the morning to drop their son or daughter off to an early childhood center. It's really imperative on us to build that throughout the county.
Absolutely, good point. I want to move on to testing and standardization. The legislature has had its hands in the education system for quite a while, messing with the educational standards. We've heard a lot about Common Core over the last few years and the changes to standardized testing that's been going on in our school districts. Where have we been left with this argument over how we standardize testing across the state of Ohio and the country, really? Who wants to tackle that one?
Well, it's become so politicized that what we saw in Ohio last year was the General Assembly 2 or 3 years ago getting involved in this, beating their chest that they're going to, gather all this data and we're going to use it for teacher evaluation and making sure there's high achievement. And then it became politicized, and all of a sudden, the company that was doing the test, Park, got involved in the politics, so they're out. Now another company, Air, is in, and this is the danger that we have to separate out some of the politics with what is truly going to get us students who should be doing the things that they need to do to be successful. So I think standardized testing has its place. It's important. I think it's been overblown now. When you see the new graduation requirements, completing 20 classes, 7 end-of-course exams, and some other standards that some of the people I went to high school with, including me, may not have gotten a high school diploma with the new standards that are coming out now. So I'm for simplifying things. I think testing needs to stay, that it will stay, but I think at this particular point, third grade reading guarantee is good. Something in math and science in the 8th grade is good, and I think a simplified version of what we need to test to get a high school diploma needs to be considered.
One of the things I would suggest on standards, and I know viewers, there'll be some people who have very strong feelings about things like the Common Core. Incidentally, we don't refer to it as the Common Core in the state of Ohio anymore.
Oh.
We call it the Ohio Learning Standards.
Ohio Learning Standards.
And there's clearly a conceptual overlap with the Common Core, but the way they refer to them really is the Ohio Learning Standards. What would be a fact is that if you look at the state that has the highest educational attainment rates in the United States, it's arguably Massachusetts. In fact, the Lumina Foundation asserts that to be economically viable, communities are going to have 60% of their adult working population, that's persons 25 to 64 years of age, they're going to have 60% of that population base with some sort of degree or credential. Right now, Massachusetts and North Dakota are the only 2 states in the United States that are going to hit those metrics, those performance metrics. Interestingly enough, Massachusetts also has the highest academic standards in the state, in the United States. They also have probably some of the most mature testing protocols in place. So as Frank indicated, I think what we're trying to figure out is a balance, but in achieving that balance, what we don't want to do is compromise on the level of appropriate rigor for our young people. We live in a mobile society, so our young people educated in Dayton are not going to live their whole lives in Dayton. They're going to, Frank's children, my children, live in different parts of the United States, in different states. We have to educate them to be able to move anywhere and be successful. To do that, we need to be thinking about what kinds of standards do we have to have in place and what kind of assessments do we have to have in place to ensure that we're advantaging and not disadvantaging our children.
Speaking of some of the struggles that we have had in our region, at the Chamber we talked so much about business-wise, a strong core supports the region of our economy. We're talking about education. Of course, we can't miss Dayton Public Schools and the struggles they have had there. Frank, I want to ask you, they've struggled with failing grades from the state of Ohio for several years in a row. How likely is it that the state will take over that district?
That'll be a political decision. We have 2 examples of that. Cleveland, where in Cleveland the mayor was given control basically of the public school district there, but they have a different governmental structure than Dayton does. And then we go to Youngstown, where the state went in and they're putting in a commission. The only thing similar between the 2 is that they've taken the current Board of Education sort of out of making the final decisions on what is happening. My personal opinion is it could be disastrous for us, for the state to come in. The State Department has been pretty much neutered. They haven't been able to do the hiring for political reasons that they've needed to do. I don't think they have the capacity to come in and run a large urban district, which we have. And certainly if you look at Cleveland and Youngstown, they haven't come in. They've just sort of taken the authority away locally and come up with another structure to make those decisions. And so I think it's important for us, for the whole region, to make sure we help Dayton become successful. But that's an easy thing to say, and I don't know with what has happened now with the treasurer and the superintendent out and the boards having to make some decisions, we'll have to see what the new leadership structure is. But the more you change it, the more difficult it becomes.
Well, gentlemen, I think we could sit here and talk about education for days. There's so much to cover, so much that we weren't able to talk about today, but I want to thank you both for being with us today and sharing such valuable information. I think it's been a good thing to hear, especially for our business community. We talk so much about workforce. I'm Holly Allen, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. If you want more information about the Chamber, you can go to daytonchamber.org, and you can always follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're on all the social media. But thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Since the Great Recession 8 years ago, the business community has grown into and beyond the available workforce we need to compete in 2016 and future years. We're not unlike a lot of other communities in our state and nation and must continue to identify the skilled workers we need for our businesses and implement plans to achieve our current and future needs. Businesses will always have challenges, whether it be the lack of capital, a new or a differentiated product, a competitive price or location, or the human capital needs it must have to drive and manage its growth and success. Now, for several years, we've found ourselves in a need for certain skilled workers that can drive an economy like ours. This is where business, academia, and the public sector have come together to try to address these human capital needs. Today's program is an excellent discussion of our needs and concerns and a plan on how we're going to get there. As once thought, everyone does not need a bachelor's or master's degree from college. Many jobs may require it, but not all. But most jobs of today and the future will need some form of active, successful training, certification, or degree beyond the high school level. We must identify those needs and make certain we're directing our current workforce, our children and their parents, as to how to be successful in a sustainable career. We must also make sure our educational institutions are helping us with the programs that fulfill those needs. Our guests today have so much to tell us and had so little time. But our chamber and many other groups are working together to collaborate on what and how and are anxious to share with you the details of our plan. We encourage you to look at our website or Learn to Earn Dayton and join our efforts to prepare our community for future careers right here in the Miami Valley.